NASA launching a historic mission to Mars. The InSight robotic explorer will be the very first to study the interior of the red planet, and it's the first ever launch to another planet from California inside of Florida. Brian Yanis joins me now with more. This is out of this world.
Instead of Florida.
Oh, instead of Florida.
Yeah, it's the first one from California instead of Florida. Yeah, so this is a significant launch, Julie. It's the first NASA mission to Mars since 2012, and it's the first time NASA's exploring 16 feet below the red planet's surface to find out how Mars was formed. The Atlas V launched early this morning at 4:05 Pacific time at the Vandenberg Air Force Base. It's the first time NASA launched an interplanetary mission from California. The rocket carried NASA's robot, the InSight lander, into space. Take a look at this surreal video captured by Leslie. What a view. She was in a private plane 5,000 feet up as she watched the Atlas V rocket launch through the clouds into outer space. Scientists hope to study Mars's temperature, heat flow, and seismic activity. That's right, Mars quakes.
This is of fundamental importance for us to understand the origin of our solar system and how it became the way it is today. In addition to fundamental planetary science, this mission I view as feed forward to human exploration on Mars.
The InSight lander is tucked inside of a protective aeroshell. It will travel 300 million miles. It'll take 6 months for the spacecraft to reach Mars. When it arrives, the spacecraft will descend from 80 miles up, enter Mars' atmosphere at 14,000 miles per hour. Small rockets and a large parachute will slow it as it comes down towards the surface. 12 descent engines will begin firing, landing it safely on the surface. Solar panels will power the lander as it explores deep below the surface of Mars over the next 2 years. The lander will provide the first true 3D image of the interior of Mars. And Julie, it is scheduled to land November 26th at 3 p.m.
Wow. You know, if this TV thing doesn't work, astronaut?
Maybe.
You know?
I still have a chance.
Kind of hot, actually. All right, Brian. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Last weekend, I hit the pavement along with thousands of other people running a race for an awesome cause. And we've got photographic evidence behind the scenes, race highlights. I'll share them with you and how you can still help out next. Ran wild last weekend, quite literally. The Wildlife Conservation Society's Run for the Wild 5K at the Bronx Zoo is in its 110th year. Since it started, more than 50,000 people have participated. And this year, about 5,500 took part, including yours truly. After the run, I was joined by my family for the Family Run Walk. I was the top fundraiser for the 21st Century Fox team. So I want to thank all of my viewers out there for all of your help. Donations this year go to Big Cat Conservation around the globe, and it's never too late to donate. Go to WCSRunForTheWild.org. That's how the Fox reports this Saturday. I'm Julie Banderas. Thanks for watching.
All right, welcome to Water's World. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I'm lucky enough to be filling in for Jesse tonight. The president adding Rudy Giuliani to his legal team. I don't know if you heard. And they saw a lot of him this week. And here's why. The bombastic former mayor came out swinging big time, saying that Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller's probe is really a trap. And Rudy's not a sucker who will fall for it, either as the president. It all comes after questions Mueller wants to ask Trump. You know, those questions he wanted to ask the president? Well, they were leaked to the New York Times this week. We still don't know why. And we're learned he's considering the possibility, is Mueller, of a presidential subpoena. Here's the president yesterday.
I would love to. Nobody wants to speak more than me. In fact, against my lawyers, because most lawyers, they never speak on anything. I would love to speak because we've done nothing wrong. There was no collusion with the Russians. There was nothing. There was no obstruction. I have to find that we're going to be treated fairly because everybody sees it now, and it is a pure witch hunt.
Wow. And stunning comments from a federal judge. Get this. This happened on Friday. He openly questioned the Mueller probe during a hearing for Paul Manafort. Judge T.S. Ellis said this. He scolded Team Mueller, portraying them as liars, saying they're not really interested in Manafort's potential bank fraud and everything else, but really into ousting President Trump. Here to help us break this down and the significance of that statement in court is former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, also writes for National Review, where he writes very penetrating columns, Andrew McCarthy. Andrew, welcome back. What is your reaction to that judge's comment, those judges' comments on Friday?
Well, I'm relieved, Brian, that finally someone is able, who has the authority and status to push back at the special counsel investigation, someone is finally pushing back at what has been the flaw of this investigation from the beginning, which is that it's an unguided missile. When what's supposed to happen in this country is you have a crime and then you assign a prosecutor. What happened here was they assigned a prosecutor and they gave him basically limitless authority to go find a crime. And that's really not supposed to happen in this country. So for the first time, we've had someone who the special counsel has to take notice of, the judge presiding over a case, who's saying, what on earth does this have to do with collusion with Russia? And he was not very satisfied, obviously, with the answers he got from the special counsel.
I mean, is the goal to take down Paul Manafort, a man that was in Eastern Europe for the last 20 years, who came back for a few weeks to help out President Trump, and then president said, okay, you're not really working out, you're not my type of guy, you're out. Now he's looking at 18-count indictment, and this is what a lot of people have been saying all along. Now, what I also thought was significant is the judge said, can you show me the scope of your mandate, please? They handed it to him, redacted. How dare they hand a U.S. district judge a redacted agreement about what you can do and what you can't do? That doesn't make any sense, does it?
Well, what they're saying, Brian, is that what's in the document is classified information, or at least some of it is. And if it's not classified, it's highly sensitive. And their position is they gave the judge what they think is relevant to the Manafort investigation. Because, you know, look, just because you're a federal judge doesn't mean you get to stick your nose in anything you want to stick your nose in. However, I think the judge quite rightly said that he would be the judge in this instance of what it's relevant for him to look at and what it's not, because they're saying that that document is what cabins their investigation, and he's entitled to know that.
Yeah, I would think so. Plus, it's good to see somebody outside, you know, a news channel say what many people like you have speculated because you spent your life in the legal profession. There's something wrong here. And I brought this up with you earlier this week on radio, and that is they hired another prosecutor. Right. And this guy also gave to Hillary Clinton. So Mueller has to know that that is one of the hits on him. You're a Republican, perhaps, but look who you're hiring, and he adds another. Should he be adding another prosecutor at this point?
Well, first of all, I think it's ridiculously overstaffed to begin with. To have 18 lawyers, I think you and I discussed earlier this week that, you know, I ran a big terrorism case back in the mid-'90s with 3 prosecutors. And, you know, it was a pretty big deal at the time. So why you would need 18 prosecutors, right, I don't know. But I do think that Special Counsel Mueller has disserved himself by the tin ear he's had with respect to the people who he has brought aboard. And I know people say, you know, look, they're not allowed to inquire when you're hiring government people about what their political attitudes are. These are not people who applied for a job with Mueller. These are people he went out and recruited.
I know.
In a case like this that's freighted with politics, you have to be aware of whether you're retaining people who are not only opposed to the president, some of them seem like they're quite hostile to the president.
You know, the president, of course, late this week came out and said Rudy Giuliani, he's the perfect person, but maybe we're going to work with him to make sure he gets all the facts straight, meaning the case in the Southern District of New York regarding around Michael Cohen. But I do want to get this and do weigh in on this. Here's what everyone's saying about whether or not the president should sit down with Robert Mueller, even if it means a subpoena if he doesn't. Let's watch.
If I were the president's lawyer, I would probably tell him not to sit down with a special counsel. Why?
Whether or not the president ought to submit to an interview to Bob Mueller and FBI agents. And my argument is never, never, never in caps should he do that.
He, of course, should not testify unless he absolutely has to.
You know, Nixon wasn't asked to. Clinton avoided the subpoena. But Robert Mueller already indicated to Rudy Giuliani, I'm going to hit you with a subpoena if you don't do this willingly. So what do you do, Andrew?
Well, I think you assert executive privilege. I would point out that while Mueller hasn't seemed to find collusion with Russia, he has seemed to make a small cottage industry of making false statements cases against people who voluntarily agree to be interviewed by the FBI. So I'd be very wary about going in there. But I really don't think, Brian, that Mueller should be allowed to ask the president for an interview until he can satisfy a test that establishes that he's got a serious crime, that Trump is somehow complicit in it, and that Trump is the repository of information that he can't get from any other source. If you can't meet that simple test, you should not, as a prosecutor, get to have a conversation with the president of the United States. We don't allow the president to be subpoenaed because someone thinks it'd be interesting.
You ask Rosenstein that, and he should decide that. But, you know, he's anything but predictable. Andrew McCarthy, your opinions and insight are invaluable because you don't have a horse in this race. You're calling balls and strikes. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, another huge story coming this week, and it's coming up beginning on Tuesday, finding a new CIA director. With all the corruption that's been uncovered on the FBI side with the Russian probe and other things, isn't it time to take politics out of our intel agencies? And isn't that what President Trump trying to do? So why is anyone opposing a lifelong participant in the CIA, in the agency itself? I'm talking about Gina Haspel. She should be equally applauded on the left and the right. Joining us now to discuss this is Dr. Jim Mitchell. He is one of the people behind the enhanced interrogation program that played such a valuable role, a significant role in keeping us safe and stopping follow-up attacks, in my opinion. So Gina Haspel, many people are questioning, Dr. Mitchell, always good to see you, on whether or not her role in Black Site's rendition and enhanced interrogation should be something that expels her from getting this job. What do you think?
I think she should have an opportunity to explain her role. I don't think that people should presume that she did one thing or the other. I'm not in a position to be able to talk specifically about her role was, but she should have to answer hard questions if that's the case. But I'm confident if she's given a fair hearing that she'll be able to answer them in a way that puts people at ease. What I can say, because I know her, is that she adheres very strictly to the rule of law, and she is in no way likely to become some sort of a rogue director that does some of the things that we've seen other agencies like the FBI do recently.
So when you talk about these things, she's got to decide how she wants to answer. She could say, yeah, everything I did was okayed by justice. I did what I had to do by law to keep America safe, and now you don't want to do that. And I won't do that. So should she say that, or just I had nothing to do with rendition, I had nothing to do with enhanced interrogation, I had nothing to do with Black Sites? Which one would you do?
I think she should be as open and honest as she can be, given the current level of secrecy about what she did or she didn't do. There's nothing to be ashamed of about that program. It was established at the highest levels of government. It was judged legal by the Justice Department. It was approved by the President of the United States and the National Security Council. It was briefed to both houses of Congress, some of whom said, is that all you're going to do? And it was adhered to legally and lawfully. So I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of, whatever her role was, which I'll leave to them to explain.
All right. The CIA released a memo. They want her. And they said that they've absolved her from any inappropriate behavior regarding the videotape that was destroyed that showed, I believe, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed being, waterboarded or whatever else was there. So they have absolved her of that. Senator Burr says they provided he's a Republican, they provided all the documents necessary. He says the documents they were asking for don't exist.
Well, I'm not sure what documents they're asking for. If they were asking for those tapes, I think it's been clearly established that those tapes were destroyed, and they were destroyed lawfully. Otherwise, Jose Rodriguez, who destroyed those tapes, he's been really clear about that. He authorized the destruction of those tapes on his authority, and it was his decision alone. And he ordered the person who was there to get rid of those. The only role that Gina had in that whole thing was as his chief of staff. Right. He directed her to put together the cable, telling them to do that. Right. But it was done under his authority and released under his signature.
So, just take a look at who Gina Haspel is: career intelligence officer, deputy director since February 2017, overseas experience, multiple assignments as at the chief station, and will be the first woman to lead the CIA. How valuable, finally, Dr. Mitchell, is it? No political appointee. This is somebody appointed by a politician, but is not a politician. The agency would revel in having somebody from the agency leading them, wouldn't they?
Well, the best and the brightest minds in the intelligence community said she's one of the most qualified individuals to ever be nominated for a position like that. And she's been described as the first woman in 70 years who's worked herself up through the ranks. 7 overseas assignment. With her assignment as Deputy Director of the CIA, 4 senior level positions. She's apolitical, and her focus will be on getting the CIA to do what it is that the CIA is supposed to do. Not build a bureaucracy in Washington, but focus on intelligence and espionage. And I think we need that. America will be safer for having her.
You think? I know. Dr. Mitchell, thanks for what you've done. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Rand Paul stands in the way, and perhaps John McCain will give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. They'll need every vote because Mike Pompeo got under 60 to be Secretary of State, and he should have gotten about 80. Meanwhile, President Trump trying to break through this week's media sideshows and tout his true accomplishments, tweeting this: "There was no collusion, it is a hoax, and there is no obstruction of justice. That is a setup and trap. What there is a negotiation going on with North Korea over nuclear war, negotiations going on with China over trade deficits, negotiations on NAFTA, and much, much more. Witch hunt, exclamation point." Well, those negotiations with North Korea may win him a Nobel Peace Prize in 2019. 18 congressmen and women officially nominating him this week. And of course, Obama received the prize in 2009 as President of the United States. His vision of a world without nuclear weapons got him that. He may have had a vision, but Trump seems to be executing a plan. Trump's tough talk, though, bringing North Korea and South Korea together in a historic meeting last week. And Kim Jong-un may soon release its 3 American hostages. With all that winning, Waters World hit the streets to see what the average person thinks about what we should do on North Korea.
What should we do about Kim Jong-un?
The dictator of North Korea? And I don't know. It's a complicated question.
I'll give him a decent haircut. He also needs to lose a white shirt without a tie. Well done, Jesse.
How would you deal with Kim Jong-un?
I wouldn't deal with him. Him, to be honest.
I don't need my father. I am strong.
What should we do about Kim Jong-un?
We should take kind people like yourself, sir, and like myself and everyone, and just give them a hug.
If we hug the dictator, he's gonna kill us, though.
If you guys buy me a flight to North Korea, I'll be the first one happy to give him a hug.
How do you think the president's handling the North Korean crisis? Do you think Trump's doing a good job taking care of North Korea?
Is he taking care of it?
Seems like no one takes me seriously.
Trump promised us he was going to take care of us, America first. Let's just take care of things here.
I don't know. He's crazy. I have no idea what he's doing.
But you're wearing that.
No, I know.
How should Trump deal with Kim Jong-un? Carefully.
Are you careful with your hair?
It just grows out of my head like this, man. It's all natural.
Why is there a North and South Korea to begin with?
Why was there an East and West Germany? I don't know.
Why is there a Southern and North in California?
Well, there's North and there's South.
Yeah, I mean, there's North and there's South. Because they have, they disagree on things. They're divided because of, different intentions. It's been a whole, they've been divided for a really, really long time.
These lines are things that separate us. Less lines, more hugs, more love.
Happy.
Can I give you a hug?
Yeah.
All right, that was great. I'm more worried about New York City than ever before. But up next on this show, the Trump-Kanye revolution coming to a screen near you and a country that you might be in right now.
Won't even get pulled over in they new feed. The good life. Let's go on a living spree. They say the best things in life.
I just love Trump. That's my boy. It's like so many rappers. You'll look at a video of Snoop Dogg loving Trump, but then he get in the office and now they don't love him. Trump is one of rap's favorite people.
No. Kanye West must have some power because you probably saw I doubled my African American poll numbers. We went from 11 to 22 in 1 week. Thank you, Kanye.
Kanye West, Donald Trump revolution continues. West professing his love for President Trump, as you just heard on TMZ, hitting President Obama for failing Chicago and saying this about slavery.
You hear about slavery for 400 years. For 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. So prison is something that unites us as one race, blacks and whites being one race, that we're the human race.
So it set the internet on fire this week, but it won't be the last we hear from Kanye. Get this. The president reportedly agreeing to host a White House summit on race with him and other athletes, as well as some artists and maybe some others in between. Joining us right now, Fox News political analyst Gianno Caldwell and political commentator extraordinaire Wendy Osefo. What a week it's been for race. A bit of a surprise that Kanye West is leading it. Wendy, for you, what do you get out of this dialogue? And would you like to see it continue at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Well, I think that the dialogue that Kanye West is perpetuating is very, very dangerous, and we have to underscore that. For him to sit here and say slavery was a choice is one that just negates all of history and all of the evidence of history. Slavery was not a choice, and if he's talking about mental slavery, then there are individuals, if you look at history, like Nat Turner, like Harriet Tubman, who rebelled against slavery. So he has no foundational basis for this argument. Furthermore, if we're going to have a summit about race at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that'll be a great thing. But for the life of me, I do not understand why every time we come to issues affecting black and brown people, we bring together athletes, we bring together artists. Why is it that we do not bring together scholars who are known in this field, whether it's Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, Dr. Greg Hart, Dr. Imani Perry, Dr. Mark Lamont Hill? There are individuals who have studied race, who have studied politics. We are not minstrel shows, and we should not be represented by individuals who are not versed in this space.
Great point. And if it's athletes and artists, it's a virtual waste of time. Gianno, first off, your reaction to Kanye's comments.
Well, of course, I agree with Wendy. Slavery was not a choice, and I can also speak to the individuals who did make choices to free themselves. We talk about the 250 rebellions that took place, including Nat Turner, including Harriet Tubman, who led free over 1,000 slaves, and those that freed themselves from many plantations across the country. So I get that. What I can say in terms of this imprisonment that Kanye talked about in terms of mentally, there are a lot of people who are mentally imprisoned. We live in a blaming generation right now where people are quick to blame history as to why they're not succeeding. And I think that's problematic on many levels. I think at the end of the day, we do live in a country where we can create our own opportunities and do well. Now, that doesn't excuse any systems of institutional racism that seeks to hold us back. I get that. But that's not going to prevent people like Dr. Wendy Osefo from succeeding, who is an immigrant, who works as a professor at one of the leading institutions, who sits on Fox News Channel on air, the #1 cable news network in the country, almost every night. Or myself, who was born into poverty, whose mom was addicted to crack cocaine. But yet and still, here I am having this conversation with you two very distinguished individuals. So I think at the end of the day that we take this into our own hands. Nothing and no one can stop you but yourself.
Wendy, I think Gianno, you put a strong argument using both your backgrounds is, hey, we're not saying the playing field was equal. We're not saying that we're proud of what happened 150 years ago. But having said that, this is the playing field, and let's be successful. Don't use it as an excuse. How can you say that, Wendy, and not be racially insensitive?
Well, you can say that by also knowing the policies that make it so that there's hurdles, that even though we are 150 years removed from slavery, there are still issues that plague people in communities of color, and communities that have low socioeconomic backgrounds. I quote the great Dr. Martin Luther King that says we have this notion in our country that individuals should pull themselves up from their bootstraps, but these individuals do not have any boots. So we have to make sure that we are looking at things in context and not saying everyone should rise to the playing field, but we have policies that make it so certain people are not able to, and that's really important.
Excellent. So let me first off, what do you think, Gianno? First, you should this be televised?
I think it's an element of it should be televised. I reached out to Pastor Darrell Scott. I actually had a conversation with him a couple of days ago talking about the summit and my involvement with it personally. This is something that I've been calling for a very long time. Wendy and I had sat on television when we talked about Charlottesville and had that very emotional segment where I called for a summit on race. I think this is something that needed to be done a very long time ago, but now there's voices that are coming to the table. Wendy had a very good point. You need to bring all voices to the table, whether we agree or not, because at this point we spend a lot of time talking past each other versus talking with each other. And although people don't like the president, and some rightfully so, they may not like what he says or does, and we get that. But at this particular point in our country, we really need to have a serious conversation on race and how can we better move together and work together. And I think that's why the Kanye West dynamic is so powerful. Although I may not agree with everything he says, he has at least opened up a conversation where people, especially in the celebrity caliber, aren't just shooting them down. They're saying, okay, we may disagree with them, but we're listening.
Wendy, and finally, just who do you want to make sure is there? I want you there. Gianno, I want you there. Wendy, who do you want to bring with you?
I want to make sure, absolutely, myself and Gianno are going to be there. I want to bring Dr. Mark Lamont Hill to the conversation. I want to bring Dr. Greg Hart to the conversation. I want to bring Dr. Michelle Alexander to the conversation. I want to make sure that scholars about race, about policies are at the table.
I think that's great, and it's a great idea, as long as everyone says, I will listen, not just talk.
Yeah.
If people will listen
Absolutely.
and make it just phase one of a series of conferences and keep politics out of it.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope this happens. You know, Gianno, Wendy has moved that conversation forward. Let's move ahead. Is California closer than ever to seceding from the United States of America? Can they do that? I'm going to ask the man who's leading the effort. I want to find out why he hates America. Next.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Julie Banderas. Investigators on Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team reportedly questioning California real estate investor Tom Barrack in their Russian meddling probe. He is a close friend of President Trump, who played an integral role in the 2016 campaign. No word on the specific topics covered in that interview. Lava and dangerous ash spewing outside a volcano in Hawaii 2 days after a volcanic eruption on Hawaii's Big Island. The eruption was triggered by an earthquake on Thursday, followed by another bigger quake on Friday. At least 5 homes in the area have caught fire so far. Hawaii County has ordered evacuations for more than 1,700 people. And NASA launching a historic rocket into space bound for Mars. The InSight robotic explorer will be the first to study the interior of the red planet. I'm Julie Banderas. Now back to Watters World. You're watching Fox News Channel.
All right, glad you're up. California has made protecting illegal immigrants and legalizing pot its priorities, not necessarily in line with most of America. So is it time for the Golden State to secede, become their own country? The man who says yes is trying to put the Cal exit movement on the ballot for voters, and he's trying to do it right away. He joins us right now. His name is Marcus Ruiz Evans, and he's the president and co-founder of Yes California. Marcus, why do you want to leave us?
We lose money, and our cultures are not intact. I mean, look at the war, as the California governor calls it, that the federal government has launched on California. Never had a California governor talk like that. And now you have 30 lawsuits from the California government against the federal government. Anything that Trump does, California tries to block. Now, I support that, but I also agree with what Jeff Sessions is saying. This is unsustainable. You know, you cannot have a government work this way. On top of that, California is a donor state. We have to raise taxes on ourselves to subsidize 25 to 35 American states who are already doing better than us.
Right. Now, a couple of things. As you know, there are multiple counties who are siding with the federal in California, including San Diego and parts of Orange County, who are siding with the U.S. government on the immigration policies, that you guys shouldn't be, in this case, a sanctuary state. So not everybody's speaking like Marcus.
Well, that's true. There are conservatives in California. I would point out that the overwhelming majority of Californians support the policies, and we're going to see that in the elections coming up. I know there's a lot of talk about people in California are going to revolt and they're going to push back against this. It isn't going to happen. Let me peer into the future for you and say that our policies are going to stay the way that they are. Nobody's going to be rebuked, and we're going to continue on the path that we are already on. through the elections, and we'll be able to see who's right when that happens.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting, Marcus. I look at these, the refugees, the would-be immigrants that are sitting on the fence in San Diego, kind of making a mockery of our barrier, and I think something's got to change. You want all those people to come in. Open the border, let them all come in. Count them all as equal, right?
No, we never said that. We never said that. Never said that at all.
So that's the main thing. They want to bolster the immigration laws. They want to build up that border, reinforce the wall.
I think that the Cal-Exit opinion is that America's had 30 years to deal with immigration policy, and it never did it. So I see a lot of talk, but it's kind of like it's a little bit too little, too late. People who are undocumented, 40% of them are visa overstays. That's from the federal government not doing their job.
Right.
The border protection is not being there doing their job.
All right, so we differ on that real quick. We're up against it. I want to find out, what do you plan on doing? Why do you think you're better off in your own country? Who's going to protect your shores when you have fires ravaging the entire state? What are you going to do when the federal government is not going to be there to protect you and help put that out?
Certainly. Well, I always encourage people to look at natural emergencies and see how much federal assistance we got. I recall Governor Schwarzenegger being upset with President Bush because we couldn't get enough fire support. Additionally, the federal budget for fire suppression support has been cut while the amount of fires in California have gone up. So if we look at fires and natural disasters, I encourage everybody to look at this. We are not getting what we deserve. We are not getting what we pay for.
Right.
We're a donor state. We lose $30 billion to $100 billion each year, and we have to beg for fire support. I think Donald Trump recently gave us around $200 billion in federal assistance to deal with the fires. We lost $32 billion. We have to beg for $200 million when you took $32 billion.
You also have to import your own water.
Deal.
Marcus Ruiz Evans. He says California pays out $100 billion more than it takes in, and he wants to form his own country. It's called Cal-Exit. Marcus, I would miss you, so I hope you're not successful. Talk to you soon. Meanwhile, Jesse may be off tonight, but he found me before he left for a must-see quiz. How well did I do? How well do I know? Our Fox News colleagues. That story next. All right, before Jesse went out on assignment, I entered Water's World for some fun and games. Watch.
Here we go. Biggest Trump supporter on Fox News, Hannity or Lou Dobbs?
Wow.
Who do you have?
We'll put it this way. You talking about on air or off air?
Let's not make this more complicated than it already is.
I would say Sean Hannity, better hair.
Better hair?
Yes.
You're not going to take this segment seriously, are you?
No, I'm just saying, if I look at both men,
yes,
I see very accomplished men, and I see that they've accomplished a lot in their life. And they both said that President Trump is the #1 president ever.
They both said that?
In my mind.
Ever in the history
of
presidents?
I was writing a summary of their show at the end.
All the accomplishments of the president, keeping his promise, checking off his list. He's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But he's done a really good job.
Well, he's pretty close to perfect, Sean. I mean, I'm serious.
So I would have to say Hannity.
You're going with Hannity. See, I'm going to go with Dobbs because I think he gave Trump an A+ so far in year 1.
Right.
I mean, that's a little much.
I put it this way. Do you think that Sean Hannity would grade less than an A+?
I don't know, maybe A-.
Right. Put it this way. If we really want to get a referee, we should call the president.
Okay, we'll have him decide. Next one. This is kind of mean, so I'm sorry beforehand. Who would be picked last in gym class? Griff Jenkins or Steve Doocy?
Not kind of mean.
This is not.
Just mean.
This is sad for you because this is, complicated.
Here's a couple of things. In fairness, I've done some, I know a lot about both men.
You would know?
Yes.
What do you know, Brian?
Steve peaked 5th grade wrestling.
Right? Oh, he wrestled?
He wrestled, but in 5th grade they said, you're probably not going to get any better, you should drop out.
Okay.
So with Griff Jenkins, you have a guy who surfs, which you have good abs. You have great abs, good coordination, and when he's very pliable.
Let's just let the audience know you wanted me to take my jacket off before the interview.
I thought it would look good. It looked like a newsroom, kind of working, breaking a story.
No, but Griff also does Ironman competitions.
Yes.
He bikes, he runs, he swims, and he surfs. What does Steve do?
You mean, there has to be a verb, right? An action word? Steve Cooks. I'm not sure that's even a contact
Okay, you know what?
sport.
This is over.
So Griff Jenkins.
Ducey's getting picked last.
Yes.
Can we agree?
Thank you.
Okay. You're going to have a hard time next Fox and Friends. Biggest goody two-shoes on the channel, Dana Perino or Todd Starnes?
Wow.
This is a tough one.
This is unbelievable. Very similar. They profile the same way.
Yes.
Todd Starnes more of a radio guy.
Yes.
Hair part on the side. Dana wears her hair down.
Okay.
So those are two things.
Is that how we're defining this?
A little bit. I'm just kind of because you did not
just warm up. Just warm
Jesse, keep in mind for the audience at home, and it's a big audience because I've seen them. You did not give me these questions ahead of time.
No, I did not.
So I'm talking out loud,
right?
Almost like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
We usually have you talk out loud.
Thanks very much. Like I just want you to.
Okay, so listen here. I'll set it up. I
would say Dana Perino.
Perino's a bigger goody
right because she has no dark side.
That's
I've
true.
Her around I've surveilled her from a distance. No dark side.
But wait,
woman.
Todd Starnes, I don't believe drinks. I don't believe dances. He thinks dancing's the devil.
Right.
So, but I know Perino drinks.
But you're not seeing the linkage.
What's the linkage?
If we could get Todd to drink, he'd dance. So I think yes.
So what are we going with? You're going with Perino's the bigger goody two shoes.
Dana Perino, without in fairness to Todd, no better.
This is a toss up. I can't decide. Next one. Cushiest gig on the network, Phil Keating or Phil Keating?
I would say Phil. I would say Phil Keating, and I'll say here's why.
Yeah.
He has never buttoned his top button, ever. Right?
Never.
Right?
He doesn't button his second button.
Right. If you kept him indoors.
Yeah. No one can keep him indoors.
No one can, if you did, he'd still be tan. So right there,
tan
I think
year round.
Absolutely.
Right.
And he'd still have that sandy beach look.
That's right. Yeah, we only see him on New Year's Eve, and it's at a Miami club.
He has never had footwear with laces. So I see Phil Keating wins this hands down.
We're going with Phil. Okay, that was easy. Most fun person to hit the bars with, Gutfeld or Kimberly Guilfoyle?
Guilfoyle.
Why do you say that, Brian?
Because
What's so funny?
There's just no question. Because Guilfoyle's got the intellect, the background. She could talk.
You want to go to the bar with someone with an intellect?
Yes. Someone who could have a wide-ranging sort of conversation. Because every once in a while I get tired of talking about myself.
Because really, I've never seen that.
You've never seen that side of me. So I would think that.
Right. Well, I've had drinks with both of them.
And
I'm going to go with Kimberly.
Kimberly,
but it's close because Gutfeld likes wine, and he's a lot of fun too.
And I will say this, Gutfeld, better body. Got a bill, he's good bench press.
Listen, whatever you like, it's fine with me.
Right.
Hardest worker at Fox.
Okay.
Jesse Waters or Brian Kilmeade.
Okay.
You seem offended. I mean, listen, just because you do 3 hours in the morning and do the 2-hour radio show, 3-hour radio show, and then fill in sometimes doesn't necessarily make you a hard worker. Well, I had to get to where I'm at by slaving away on the streets for the Factor for many, many years. You didn't have to do that. You were like in a studio. You don't win an Emmy in a studio.
I did not slave away for years, but I didn't work 8 hours and just give 3 minutes. I work 6 hours and give you 6 hours.
Are you insulting the Water's World packages?
Absolutely. And you were carried by Rob Monaco. Let's tell this story.
Okay, give the producers all the credit?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, the Fox and Friends producers have something to say about that.
And guess what? Here's something else.
Yeah.
Guess who edits this piece? The producers.
Okay.
I'm going to look better and better. I probably won't even look as shiny as I do right now in real life.
You can't look better than you already look.
Wow, that was very nice of Jerry to say. That was a lot of fun. And that is our radio show. Don't forget, listen 9 to noon. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, Water's World bringing back one of your favorite segments. It's called Mugshot Mania. That story is next. Take that camera. All right, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Never is that more true than when it comes to Mugshot Mania. Here to help me break down some of the good, some of the bad, and some of the ugliest is stand-up comedian himself, Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy, welcome.
Hey, man, great to see you.
Are you ready to look at some mugshots?
Let's do it, man.
Some people that are wanted or less than wanted?
Probably my relatives.
Okay,
yeah,
fantastic. Let's talk Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Police arrested a man based on a cartoon drawing. Hung Nguyen was arrested for theft after stealing money from a grocery store. Can you believe that stick figure produced A criminal.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the cops for catching him and the kindergartner for drawing him.
It's incredible.
I hope that kid gets a free fidget spinner out of the deal. He actually half looks like the front man in a Phil Collins cover band.
Right.
Doesn't he kind of look like he might have stole that money to get drums or something like that?
Well, put it this way, a couple of things. Whoever drew it, and then whoever released it, and said, okay, this will definitely lead to something, or a laugh at the very least. All right, let's move on. Jonathan Rivera, arrested in Connecticut for attempting to steal a car, drove to his court appearance in another car. And there he is from two different angles. What about the wisdom here, Jimmy?
You know, on the flip side of this, though, because we're like, this guy's insane, but think of how low his bail's going to be. Because the judge knows this is a guy that shows up to court.
Right.
You know, this guy's going to find a way to get there. And I read a little bit about him. He was actually going to take an Uber, but he figured there was going to be a criminal in the driver's seat either way.
Right.
So he just might as well be the criminal.
I think over 100 have had problems.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, look out for that app. Do it at your own risk. All right, so there you go. At least you know what? He's being sincere. Next, composite image of a man wanted in the UK for burglary based on a description given by a witness. Look at that smile. Something tells me it's not natural.
Yeah, the police report says he was last seen standing in front of a funhouse mirror. This guy is a hungry hippo legend from what I've heard about him. That is a weird mouth. I don't know what, I mean, maybe he ate one of those Carolina Reaper peppers where it swells up your face.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that guy.
You know, the thing is weird because his teeth look normal.
Yeah.
His face looks normal. But together they don't look normal. And believe it or not, he has not been caught.
He hasn't been found?
Can you believe that?
That's so weird. He's blending in with the donkeys.
You know, I didn't see not finding somebody here, but that's a very small country.
Yeah,
you should be able to find him. All right. Meanwhile, William Lara Garcia, arrested in Virginia in December for stealing a car wearing a Trust Me t-shirt in his mugshot. So, right there, he looks guilty.
Oh, that's a bad look, right? Just the face alone, forget the T-shirt. But I do trust this guy more than I trust Facebook, if we're being fair.
If you cry in your mugshot, should you have your time cut in half?
I want to say this. If you cry in your mugshot, you should keep that to yourself in prison.
Absolutely.
That does not end good.
Yeah, you don't want to say, I was just weeping. Give me a second, Sarge. All right. Meanwhile, Kevin Gibson arrested in Miami Beach, April 2016, drinking in public and possession of marijuana with intent to sell. There's something weird about that shot. Do you know what it is, Jimmy?
It's that his barber wore a T-shirt that said, "Trust me." That's my guess.
For one thing, I do wonder, sometimes you have half a beer, but never down the middle.
Yeah. I mean, I think the moral of the story here is never go to a barber that gets paid in bath salts.
Right.
I think is one. But yeah, that's hard to blend into a police lineup.
Right.
Because there's nobody else with your look. You know what I mean? You have to think about that one.
Criminals, not the smartest. That's why they're caught, although we're still looking for that guy in the UK. Jimmy, where can we watch you?
My stand-up special, my one-hour special, State of the Union, is on Amazon Prime right now. Check
right
it out.
now.
If you tune in tonight after the show, you will double my ratings. Come on, man.
But no, more importantly, do you get money?
Of course.
All right.
Royalties. We're going out, Kilmeade, you and me.
You got it. Jimmy, we'll click it on your face.
Let's do it.
All
Thanks,
right,
man.
good job. Thanks so much.
The best.
Awesome. Meanwhile, up next, last call, Little League style.